Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm very sleepy today, so I'm drinking a lot of coffee. And I've gotten to the point where I wonder what's gonna happen if I pour coffee into my eyeballs. Will this wake me up? Because I literally cannot. I gathered you here today to wrap up a few reads that I've tackled recently. There are a few romances, a few fantasy books. It's a mishmash of things. Let's get on with it. The first book that I'm going to talk about is Out on the Ice by Kelly Farmer. It's a sports sapphic romance, and I've expected so many things from it, especially because I've read one wonderful book, 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝔸𝕃 by Merrow, and really enjoyed it. This did not live to my expectations. It also was our Feeble Book Club book. If you don't know about our book club, I'm going to leave the link in the comment. We recently started doing not one book a month, but one book bi-monthly because we read such behemoth, and generally everyone is so busy, it feels like a more comfortable pace. Rolling back to Out on the Ice, as you might have expected from the title and the cover, it's a hockey romance and it follows two women. The first character is Carol. She is an ex-hockey player, but she's now retired and owns an all-girls hockey camp that she hopes is going to be her legacy. She pours a lot of her emotions, a lot of her money, a lot of her time into this project, and she keeps her personal life and work life completely separate until Amy steps into her life. Amy is a working hockey player. She is an athlete currently. She is very bright, very flashy, has a big personality. She has pink hair and all the queer regalia. The media knows that she's queer and is aware of all her private details and personal information. She is a complete opposite to Cairo, and she's invited as a mentor to Cairo's camp to be an inspiration for the young girls with all the career goals that she actually achieved. She's a very high-profile athlete. When Amy comes to camp to teach, Cara realizes that she's really attracted to her, though Amy does sound like bad news because nothing is private when it comes to her, and Cara wants to stay in the closet and not bring the attention to herself and her business. So they have very different priorities. The main conflict in the story is the old school and out person is dating a person who's not out and who's pretty happy about it. So one of them has to compromise, but who's it gonna be? You have to read the book to know. You don't have to read the book to know. I'm going to tell you because I feel like these kinds of stories always go the same way. The person that is not out is coming out, and it's almost always framed as a good choice for them regardless of the consequences. And also it is almost always a case of the out person pressuring the closeted person to come out, but for their own good. You know that I don't like these kinds of books, because the choice to come out is always framed as a moral choice, and the personal reasons for the closeted person to not come out are never good enough. Not that they are not valid in my point of view, they're not valid for the love interest usually. So I was not a big fan of it already, though I hoped that it's gonna be a little bit more like 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝔸𝕃 in tone, in storytelling perhaps, but it wasn't. I didn't like the dialogue, I didn't like the chemistry between the characters, I didn't like the humor in this book. It felt very Facebook mom humor. It kind of bled into the dialogue a lot. It felt like the dialogue is a bit aged, though the book is freshly published. I wasn't a big fan of the story overall. It was pretty mediocre. I think I gave it 3 stars at best. I had huge expectations, and the book didn't meet them, especially after I read 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝔸𝕃, which is so good. The next two books are familiar to you if you watch my channel, because I've read the entirety of the series last year, and I'm going to talk about the last two books today. 𝕊𝕊𝕀𝔸𝕃 by Merrow is a continuation of the 𝕊𝕆ℎ𝕀𝔸𝕃 series, which is this funny and a really cozy mystery series with elements of gay romance. It is about a plumber named Tom Paretsky who has a special gift. He can find things that were hidden on purpose, and he helps the police to investigate cases. He also has a partner named Phil Morrison with whom he gets into a relationship in the first book in the series, and they continue on dating and dealing with different issues in their relationship as the series goes on. I actually really enjoyed this installment. It is a cool case about a friend of a friend whose husband ran off and whom she wants to get back, or at least get back for some time to talk to and deal with unresolved issues. Turns out that the runaway husband was murdered, and Tom has to figure out if it was the wife or someone else. This case was so fun. I really enjoyed it. The cast of characters was very vast and I loved all of them. I like to say that in the cozy mysteries, the most important part is the eccentricity of your background characters. The most eccentric characters make the best, most interesting choices in these books, and they are just fascinating to read about. I love the main investigation, the plot, how we delved a little bit deeper into the characters. Specifically, there is a conflict between Tom and Phil about gender roles in their relationships, and Tom feeling insecure in this relationship. Such a deep topic, and I didn't expect to see it at all in my fun, light, cozy mystery. I really loved that. I just really enjoyed this book. It must be in the top 3 of all the books that I've read from the series. And the last book that I've read that completed the series is 𝕊𝕊𝕀𝔸𝕃. It is a fun one, but not my favorite. It is about Tom and Phil's honeymoon, because they do get married in the last book, and them having adventures in Italy. Criminal adventures in Italy, because of course something has to happen, and of course Tom has to investigate it. In this case, they meet an old friend, a friend of Phil's, but not a friend of Tom's, because Tom was bullied in high school by Phil's friends. And this guy that they meet is trying to make amends, but someone pushes him off the balcony. And Tom, of course, cannot stop himself. He has to figure out what happened. Enjoyed this one, but it's not my favorite. I feel like the previous book is stronger and it has a more interesting premise and plot, though I think you can do a lot with the honeymoon. Not in this case, but generally. Surprise, surprise, the next book I actually own physically, which never happens, and I wasn't even lazy as I usually am, and I picked it up from my shelf for you to look at. It's Midwinterblood by Marcus Sedgwick. It's just a really pretty book, but it's also the first book of 2025, the first book that I've read in 2025 that I've given 5 stars. I started reading it on the train during the winter vacation that I took to see my friends in a different city. And it was such a vibe. I was reading it on the train, it was snowing, it was dark outside, which was a perfect atmosphere for the kind of book that this novel is. It's gonna be difficult for me to explain what it is about, but if you enjoyed sort of fractured narration, if you like when the book gives you a bunch of different stories that you have to piece together, that you have to find common ground for, a common element that connects them. This is gonna be for you. I personally love these kinds of stories. It is a bunch of stories that are set on a very isolated island and that seemingly follow people with the same names. It starts in 2073 with our character Eric, who comes to the island of Blessed, which is pretty odd. He's a journalist. He's trying to figure out how people live there, why they live the way they live, because they are very archaic in a way. They don't use much technology. They prefer to stick to their ways. And they are not particularly talkative, and they distract him a lot from his mission. There he meets a woman named Merrow and falls in love with her, and of course forgets the purpose for which he visited the island in the first place. It's a very interesting book. I read it in 2 or 3 sittings, which is very quick for me. It was very addicting, and I really wanted to know what's the matter with the island and why people are so weird and why we encounter the same characters over and over again in different time periods. It was so interesting. I love books like this because I am very mystery driven generally. Give me a little bit of suspense and I'm going to lap it up because I want to figure out what happened. I want to know everything. I'm very curious. So this book was perfect. It's beautifully written. It's concise and to the point, but at the same time is full of very beautiful passages, beautiful writing. I loved this. I love this. It's a gem. So highly recommend if you love the star-crossed lovers trope, if you love epic romances, if you love mysteries, if you love cults, if you love all that jazz, you're going to enjoy this. Okay, now let's tackle the book that I hated. It was one of our book club picks, so I feel bad because I put it on the poll in the first place, but I was not the one responsible for voting for it because I think I voted for a different one. The Hunter's Gambit by Ciel had so much potential. It is an escape room type of thriller with elements of fantasy and vampires. Hello. Incredible. Sounds so good. To make it even better and even buzzier, in my head at least, it promised me a sapphic romance, and I was like, yes, it's gonna be so good. I'm all about it. So this is a self-published fantasy thriller, I want to say. The genre is interesting because I have not seen this blend before, but I would say it's a promising blend of genres. We have fantasy romance, why not fantasy mystery? Sounds good to me, but like not urban fantasy, like full on fantasy with magic and stuff that is set in like the Middle Ages. I would love this up. So this one is about a woman named Kazan. She is a craftswoman. She makes stellar weapons, and she has some connections through which she sells these weapons. Sorry, I think it's going to rain, so I closed the window in the other room. Anyway, Kazan recently made a very special weapon and she wants to sell it on the black market, so she needs to contact the lady that moves in the underground, knows the people, and she goes to this special event where she can meet her and talk to her. And during this special event, instead, she bumps into a vampire, royally pisses him off, and without giving out much detail, she becomes the next sacrifice for the vampire race. Every single year, they sacrifice a human instead of the vampire king. It's a ritual that they have to do so their castle won't collapse under them and they all won't die. It's all connected to a very ancient ritual. Back in the day, they were tired of their vampire king, so they decided to kill him, and accidentally they connected the vampire sacrifice to the magic of the castle, and now they have to do it every single time. So Kazan accidentally becomes the sacrifice. She's welcomed into the house of the vampires, and she's taken care of for a period of time until they have to murder her. She obviously is not happy about these circumstances, so she's trying to run off, escape them, but it's very difficult. No one escaped in the past. There are some loops, of course, and she has to figure out which one is going to work for her. There's also a romance between a vampire man, her and another vampire woman. So we have a menage. I was not a fan of this book. I didn't really like Kazan. I think Kazan got on my nerves the most. I just didn't understand her motives a lot of the time. She had an incident in the past when she was a child, when vampires attacked her village, and she was scarred in a fight with a vampire. So she's supposed to hate them and fear them. That would be a logical reaction, but instead she lusts after them immediately, like without a beat. It was so odd. I didn't love the romance. I didn't love the plot. I just didn't love this book. I think a lot of it was underdeveloped because of the romance, and I hate it when that happens, because lust cannot be the motivator for things. I mean, it can be, but in a specific circumstance, not in this one. Lust cannot be the motivator for things to happen in the novel, though. You are not you, as in the author. You are not the protagonist, and you're not writing your sexual fantasy onto the page. You are supposed to develop a character, make it a person, give them layers. It was also extremely long, and in my opinion should have ended earlier, because the last few chapters were completely useless. We're really struggling for light, so I moved a little bit closer to the window. It's getting real dark, and I have to go buy some produce because my fridge is empty. I'm out of basics. We're going to try to wrap it up quickly. The next book that I read was the story Read Between the Lines by Rachel Lacey. My laptop is down there. Read Between the Lines is a sapphic romance that I've heard a lot about, like a lot about on booktube, and everyone loved it, so I expected it to be brilliant. It wasn't brilliant, spoiler alert. I actually really disliked it, and I think one of the reasons is because it was so hyped and I had so many expectations for it. It is a contemporary sapphic romance about a woman named Rosie, who owns a bookstore that has been in her family for a while now. She is really attached to it, especially after her mother died. But the company that owns the property that rents out to her wants to take the building down and build an apartment complex in its place. She is not happy about it, and this news are delivered to her by a woman named Jane. Jane is a stunner. She's beautiful, but she's also kind of a bitch because she gives Rosie this news mostly nonchalantly. She doesn't know, though, that Jane actually is secretly an author of her favorite romance books. They've been talking in the DMs for ages, but Jane hides her identity, so no one really knows who she is. At first, I was really down for this concept because it really sounded like You've Got Mail, where the characters were enemies in real life, but they were talking a lot online and were developing feelings for each other. Something similar was happening in the story, and I was so down for it. I loved the idea so much, but the problem with this book is that it's not the main conflict. The characters figure out their identities quite quickly into it, and The main issue becomes them not willing, or rather Rosie not willing to get over the grudge, though Jane of course says sorry many times and tells her that she's just an employee and has to do what she has to do. You would think that they would get over this conflict and the author will introduce something else into it, but no. It seems like Rosie, for the majority of time, like 80% of the book, it seems like Rosie is getting over it, or that she got over it and is building a relationship with Jane. But then at the end, the same conflict pops up again. And it's quite annoying really, because it does seem like the author was trying to fit the story into the woman's structure. I was not a fan. I also really hated Rosie. I think that she was irrational. She was not very likable in my opinion. And honestly, I do not understand Jane. She is a full-on catch, and I would not beg this woman for her attention just because she is pretty or something. Like, hello, you can find a better match, a match that doesn't hold grudges and isn't trying to pick a fight all the time. I would never, you would not catch me simping so much. I don't know, I really like Jane and I felt pity for Jane because Jane, in my opinion, deserved better. And I really hated Rosie, and I really hated this book at the end because in no way these two are making it. I even said in our chat that no way this couple is going to stand the challenge of time. Like, they're breaking up immediately after the happy ending because Rosie will find a way to fuck it up. Mark my words. Anyway, I do not understand why people really loved this book. I think it had potential and I really liked the first 15% of it, but then it was just underwhelming. This book you will probably recognize. I have been reading it for a bit now because it's non-fiction, and I was actually trying to soak in the messages and the techniques. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. One of the most popular self-help and non-fiction books in my opinion. Well, probably, I think so. Maybe on par with The Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This one actually is very useful. So basically it's just a really good guide on how to make people like you, especially in professional settings, and I feel like it's very useful for people like me that don't particularly care for ethics when it comes to jobs. I just care for climbing up that corporate ladder, and I'm not ashamed to admit it because a job is a job, you know? So this was very, very helpful. Simply is a collection of rules on how to talk to people, how to make them like you, how to respond to them, how to correctly make them choose what you want them to choose. I think it's a good book for people that care about interpersonal relationships and that maybe struggle a little bit with being unlikable or having a reputation of being unlikable. Not that I recommend being inauthentic in your personal life. I do recommend being inauthentic in your professional life though. The next book that I read is Seance on a Summer Night by Lanyon. I already talked a little bit about this book in my romantic suspense recommendations that I posted recently. If you have not seen that video, it's very fun, so I'm going to link it. The story is about a theater critic named Artemis. He's called back to his family house by his aunt to help her with the situation. The situation being her husband dying in a car crash and starting to haunt the old house. Or at least that's what she and the sister of the husband believes is happening. They even hired a medium to connect to the soul of the husband, so he will finally find peace and leave them alone. Artemis, of course, doesn't believe that it's true. He is a real skeptic, but he comes for the peace of mind, and he discovers that indeed it seems like the house is haunted. This is a cozy mystery with queer romance on the side. I love these kinds of books, so you know that. And it was a perfect cozy mystery with all the cliches that you love if you love cozy mystery. I really enjoyed this book. It's very atmospheric. It's a really good audiobook as well. I listened to it on audio. Highly recommend it if you're looking for a cozy, atmospheric, slightly spooky reads. Since it's getting real dark, I propose we finish the video here. In the comments section, tell me about the books that you've read in 2025 already and loved and can recommend to other people. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with another one, but until then,